Hello everyone, I'm Simon, the Grand Cat McGoldrick, and we're going to be answering a couple of questions for you today. So I've had lots of people ask me lots of questions, and I'm going to do my best to answer them. So first off, Callum Hamilton, what is your favourite 3 decks for Vanguard and Buddy Fight? Favourite 3 decks would have to be Metalborg. Currently I like Sanctuary Blaster Dragon. I've always liked Royal Paladins. And I would say the third one would be, it's a difficult decision, but I'd say Chaosbreaker. However, Kagero, Angel Feather, and Shadow Paladin are all up there. Favourite 3 decks for Buddy Fight? I would say Aztahak is my favourite. I don't think it's the best, but it's certainly my favourite one. Sun Dragons are really good. And Magic World, surprisingly. Darkness World is very strong, as is Raging Spirits. It's never changed. Dungeon World is really powerful, but I would have to say that those are my 3 favourite decks. Scott Boyle asks, best and worst keywords for Vanguard. Best one I think is Blaze, because it's so easy to pull off. It's Kagero, and if you have more rearguards than the opponent, it activates, which is really easy to do in Kagero, because Kagero is the retire deck. And Brave is if you have 3 or less cards in hand. So I think Brave effect should be stronger, because it's more difficult to pull off. And I think when we start seeing more powerful Brave units in the future, then we'll start seeing that effect really kick in. Bjorn Amundsen asks, if someone could make a VR version of Yu-Gi-Oh! That had animations and fully ledged out monsters like the anime, would you play it? Yes, absolutely, in a heartbeat. I would happily return to Yu-Gi-Oh! If they had that. Would I compete in national events? Probably not. I think the game has changed a lot from when I played it. I played it from 2002 to 2012. I think the format is... I don't want to say anything bad about Yu-Gi-Oh! But I would certainly say that Vanguard and Buddy Fight are among the most skill-based games available currently. I prefer games that reward skill rather than... Also, Vanguard and Buddy Fight, you have an infinite amount more meta because cards are restricted to specific clans or worlds, so it gives you it makes it so that things aren't broken, so that Pot of Greed can only be used in a very specific deck. It can be used in everything, as is D-Draw, with malicious. I'm just talking about old cards here. I know there's like much more. I've seen the Monarch stuff. I keep up to date with Yu-Gi-Oh! I just don't play it at a tournament level any longer. Jason Muirhead asks, what do you expect the future will hold for business and your business and your tournaments? Oh, I can't read today. What do I expect the future will hold? I expect Buddy Fight and Vanguard to continue growing as they have done. They've shown no signs of slowing down. The format is really good. Nothing's broken. Nothing has got to a point where people are saying, "Oh, I can't stand this game." So that's really good. Luck and Logic is about to start. Weiss Schwarz is not as popular in Scotland as it is in other places. I know that Weiss Schwarz can be quite popular, especially in America. But Buddy Fight and Vanguard certainly seem to be the most popular things. I've thought about bringing Yu-Gi-Oh! Back, but in a more casual format and not, to a national level, because it is still fun. It's really fun, if you can play with your friends and, you don't use, just like the way the current format is. I think if Yu-Gi-Oh! Changed just a little bit, it would be back there with the likes of Buddy Fight and such. Pokemon is really good currently. The problem with Pokemon is that it goes between being super popular and not popular at all, and nowhere in between. There's never been a nice, happy middle ground of it, I'm afraid. I've never had a point where you could reliably have, like 30 players come every single week. So, what I expect the future will hold, I don't think much will change. We've got our KC Championship lined up. We hold our little Scottish national events. We've got the team leagues for Springfest for Buddy Fight. We've got the Bush Road World Championships. I would like to see more events added. More. We've got the Store Championships, which are happening this year. They happened 3 years ago, I believe, regionals. But we've got them back, so that's a step in the right direction. You know, giving players more reasons to continue playing the game. I think it looks good. I don't think anything's looking like it's slowing down at the moment. Tom Aston asks, how do you find the time to make so many top-level cosplays while balancing work and Vanguard? Do you find expert time management skills also directly transfer across from both cosplaying to Vanguard? I think they're very different skills, but I certainly think imagination is a large part of it. With Vanguard, a lot of players in both nationals and European championships had to pick up and read the effects of Metalborg Heavy Duke, and when you're playing against someone and you don't know exactly what their deck does, that gives you a massive advantage against the opponent when they don't know what you're playing. So I think it's important to not just look at the meta, not just play meta decks. I think it's important to try and create your own decks. You know, try and make something that's not unique, but is underrated. You know, and that will give you a lot of potential. At Worlds, I think everyone was well aware that I was playing Metalborg. You know, I mean, anyone that goes into a World Championship does a research on the other World Championship competitors. But in terms of time management skills, I think that comes from back when I used to be a 3D animator. When I had to meet deadlines, I had to I would be working on like 5 or 6 projects at a time. So yeah, I've got a lot of experience with that. It's I think you learn skills just as you go on in life, you know. I don't think you're expected to be perfect when you begin. I think a lot of it is all just failing and then, learning from your mistakes, I guess. The longer someone's been doing something, the better they become at it. Some people pick things up faster than others. It's just the way things are. James Francis asks, do you have a Tsukiyomi deck? Your ability to memorize sounds like the deck. Sounds like the deck would be perfect for you. You wrote the word deck twice there, and it's just a bit of a typo. I should have fixed that when I was copying the question. Do I have a Tsukiyomi deck? I've got an Oracle deck which is based around Koko and Cuckoo, because I think that gives you the most advantage with Oracles. The ability to memorize cards, I'm not sure it's a special ability that I've got. I think everyone might be capable of teaching themselves it. What he's talking about is when I play games, when I'm focusing, I don't do it with every game, but I memorise every single one of the opponent's drive checks. I memorise every card that's in their damage and every card that's in their drop zone. So that tells me how many, for example, how many critical triggers they have left, how many draw triggers, how many heal triggers, etc. And I'll also memorise the cards from previous rounds. So if I see an opponent playing 4 draw triggers, then I can assume they're playing 4 draw, 8 crit, 4 heal. If I see 5 draw triggers, then I'll think 5 draw, 7 crit, 8, 4 heal. And being able to tell the opponent what's in their hand, from their drive checks, you can say, oh well, in turn 1 you drove check this grade 3 which you haven't played and you haven't guarded with it, so it's still in your hand. You've got 2 critical triggers that you haven't guarded with yet. You've got 1 perfect guard, and being able to tell the opponent what their hand is really puts them off. It's a psychological tactic where you can say this, and you can also tell the opponent, well, I know you're playing this many triggers. I know these are the ones that you have the capability of drawing into. You have 37 cards left in your deck, or you have 32 cards left in your deck, whatever it is, and you have already went through 2 of your heal triggers, so you've got this amount of chance to hit your heal trigger. I played 12 critical triggers. I've seen 1 that I have a 37 card deck. It's this likely that I'll hit these many critical triggers. Do you want to try and guard? And it also being able to tell the opponent what their move should be, like you attack with this and being like, you should perfect guard this. It makes them go, I know he's giving me advice, but he's my opponent, so I don't want to take it. So I'll just no guard this one instead, which is exactly what you actually wanted to happen. You wanted them to no guard because you know that if they actually perfect guarded you, you would probably you'd be in a worse situation. So I think being able to memorize the opponent's cards in hand and deck it's more advantageous for something like Metalborg when it restricts what they're able to card with, and being able to tell the opponent that you only have this many active cards in hand. Like where you might have say an 8-card hand, but only 3 of them you can actually guard this attack with. And it also helps because with Metalborg you have to decide what effects you want to use and how big you want to make your Sinbuster and its Urbuster Legion. So there's times that I know the opponent can guard for 40,000. They've got 2 cards that can intercept, which is 50,000. So I'll make Sinbuster 61,000, which is just perfect for them to not be able to guard it. But I won't use any other effects to increase attack beyond that. And then the following turn, I'll play more cards to say increase Sinbuster's effect or Heavy Duke's effect by 5,000. Use Nightmare's effect, counter last 1, give both vanguards plus 4,000, plus 8. This sort of thing. Anyway, so yes, I think memorizing, I think it's more just your playstyle. It helps. Some people are better at certain things. I've seen people that are better on instinct than I am on. I do things a lot more logically based, and instinct is really good, especially in poker. When you think, well, there's more of a chance of this happening, but I'm going to check a chance, and if the chance pays off, it can give you a victory where you would have a loss. Jihari Ahmed asks, with your loss at Worlds, were you able to immediately pick up on mistakes you made, or did it take a little rethinking to spot them? In Worlds, as we were talking about the finals of Worlds, I was against Rafley, and I honestly think I played perfectly. I don't think I made any misplays in that match, neither did Rafley, and I was aware of what the meta was going into that. I knew that the Aquaforce deck Ripples were the top tier thing. I knew that it could stay on grade 2. A lot of people have given Rafley a lot of grief for staying on grade 2, but that's a legitimate tactic. We played each other in Swiss and we went 2-1, and the games were a lot closer than they were in the finals Worlds. And I've never played against me because obviously that'd be stupid. I don't know how I would do it, but I've heard that playing against me is quite terrifying when I'm playing properly. Like being able to declare what the opponent's hand is and things. It's a different kind of fight than what you're used to. So I wouldn't say staying on grade 2. I would say that it was the correct move to do, actually. To stop me being able to Legion or stop me being able to Stride. And a lot of people were saying, oh, you didn't get a chance to play or anything like this. It's true, but that was Rafley doing his plays. Could I have done anything different? No. With my hand, I played the best moves. I played the best that I could. I haven't actually watched the match back. I don't like watching myself play games, as strange as that might seem. So I try not to think about mistakes. If I do make a mistake, I tend to think on it, pick up on it, and think, well, that's it, I'll never make that mistake ever again. And I think that makes you improve and makes you better. Next question, still Jihari Ahmad, is, do you feel like your losses were due to misplays or simply being outplayed? Like I said, I don't think either of us misplayed. I wouldn't say I was outplayed. I think in my situation there wasn't anything more that I could have done. I don't think there's anything less that Rafley could have done. It's 2 World Championship competitors playing at their prime in the finals of the World Championship. There's 4 factors that make up a game, which is, first of all, how good your deck is. Secondly, how good you are playing your deck. Third, how good you're playing your deck against other people. This means that, do you know how to play against Kagero? Do you know how to play against Aquaforce? Because it's 2 very different decks that you'll be against. And, because, knowing how to play your deck doesn't necessarily mean you'll be able to, know how to play against these different types of decks. And the 4th one is how to outplay the opponent. Now, me and Rafi both had the best decks that we could conceive of. We both knew how to play them perfectly. We both knew how to play them against every other deck in the format, and we're both psychologically at the top of our game. So I wouldn't say it came down to luck. I knew the Ripple deck was dangerous. I would say that Metalborg was my deck, and I would have felt like, I wouldn't have known. I could have went in with Ripple, but I'd have felt I wouldn't have known how far I could have got with Dimension Police if I didn't play it. And it was, there was a real struggle going into Worlds, deciding what deck I wanted to use. Did I want to play what I felt was the best, or did I want to play what I was known for? Did I want to try and go in an uphill battle, or did I want to be, the guy to try and beat? And it was it's a difficult decision. There's a lot that goes through your head when you're competing for a massive event like this. It's different from when you're competing in a European Championship. I competed in 9 European Championships. I've only competed in one Worlds. So yes, there's a lot of things. I'll move on to the next question. It's still Jihari Ahmed. He asked 4 questions, which is good. I like questions. What advice can you give new players playing in a big tournament? Don't be scared, is what I would say. The more tournaments you compete in, the better you'll become at them. Don't expect to win your first tournament. The first tournament I ever played in was in 2002, I think it was 2001, at the end of 2001, beginning of 2002, and I stayed up all night. It was a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament, and I stayed up all night studying all the cards, every card that existed, and making sure that I knew all the different. Like, there wasn't any websites back then that told you what the meta was, so you just had to. Like the Yu-Gi-Oh website told you what the top 4 players played of the US nationals. So I was aware of like the chaos format and things, and I thought it would stand a good chance, and I came 10th out of a 60-person tournament. So I didn't make the top 8, unfortunately, on my first event, but it gave me experience, and it made me, think, like, okay, now I've seen what people are capable of. I've seen, how I can make things better. I probably made a lot of misplays. I don't remember much of that tournament. I remember I had a handheld video camera, which was crazy. But yes, advice for new players. I would say play in smaller tournaments first. Get yourself used to the game. Get yourself used to playing against people that you don't know. Get yourself used to playing against decks that you didn't think existed. Be prepared for the unexpected. That's the best way to go into a big event. If you can win your first big event, it's fantastic. And everyone remembers their first big win. But remember, the main reason that people play card games is to have fun, not to try and win. You're not playing for you're not playing for thousands of pounds worth of money. It's very different from the likes of poker and things. A loss can be difficult, especially if you feel it wasn't your fault. But you have to keep moving on. If you don't move on, you won't improve. So it's important to keep going to big events, even if you're not doing well, because you will slowly improve. Everyone does. And the last question that Jihari Ahmed asked is, which tournaments were you most stressed during? During tournaments, I'm not actually stressed. It's all the preparation beforehand that I get stressed. When I was competing in Worlds, I try to fool myself into having a lot of confidence. I put on an act, and then the act becomes me. I don't think you can walk into Worlds without being at least a little bit scared, because you're against the top players on the planet, not in Europe, not in the UK, in the entire world, and that's a hell of a thing to, it's a hell of a thing to put on someone, But the preparation going into an event like that, if you went into Worlds and you weren't prepared, it would probably haunt you for the rest of your life, because you would feel, oh, what if I'd just spent a couple more hours working on things? What if I'd read up on this? What if I'd learned the format or something? So there's a lot of things that go into that. Worlds is probably the most stressful leading up to event that I've ever had in my life. Second to that was the first time I qualified for the European Championship, was 2006. 2006. It was either 2006 or 2005, I think it was 2006, and it was for Yu-Gi-Oh! And I was the first person from Scotland to not only top 8 an event, but like came third and qualified for the first ever European Championships, which were held in Germany that year. Now I think about it, maybe 2005. But so that was a lot of stress because I went from, you know, representing myself and representing my own little, like, you know, local shop and my own little local tournament things to now representing not just Scotland but the entire UK. And, you know, the first time that you're asked to do something like that is, you know, it's a big thing. You know, it's something that you can either take it seriously or you can just play entirely for yourself. And I like to, you know, I like fighting for something rather than, you know, just competing for myself. I've always preferred that. Next question. Ed Vierfloors asks, do you play Metalborgs because you like them aesthetically, or DP as a whole, Dimension Police, or because of their playstyle? And a follow-up question, would you consider DP as your main clan? Yes, I would consider Dimension Police my main clan. 2 years ago, I think in 2014, it was either 2014 or 2013, I competed in the Team League, and we won the Scottish event, and we came second. It was my first time that I'd came second in a European Championship, and I was playing Zeal at the time. The opponents that were beating us, that beat us, were all playing meta, and we were playing Aqua Force, which wasn't meta at the time, Oracle Think Tank, and I was playing Dimension Police, and I was playing Zeal. So it was, you know, it was really interesting. The first big event I did was, you know, with in Cardfight, was with Zeal, with the Dimension Police, and, you know, like doing it back over again was with Metalborgs. And Metalborg is kind of like the new evolved version of Zeal. They're both about restricting what the opponent can do when you declare attacks. You know, one of them, it's, you know, like, I'm going to lower your opponent's attack. You know, but this was in a, you know, a much younger format. And Metalborg is more about, you know, I'm going to increase my attack to such a point where you can't guard it. So yes, I would consider Dimension Police to be my main deck. I started off with Royal Paladin, didn't start with Dimension Police because Dimension Police wasn't out when I started. I started the game before it came out in English, and we were the first distributor of Cardfight in the UK, which is a fun little fact. What is your least favourite clan? I don't like having a least favourite clan, but it's between two that I don't really play. One of them is Neonectar, which I've never really played. I went out of my way to get all the Musketeer stuff, and then just could not bring myself to actually finish the deck, you know, to bother. And it's laziness. It really is laziness more than anything else. Bermuda Triangle, I went out of my way when duos were a big thing. You know, I got all the different versions and everything, but I felt that they were missing something. I think Neonectar is a lot better now than what it used to be. I think Bermuda, hopefully with the new Extra Booster clan that's coming out, will give it a lot more support, and we'll maybe see it top a few things again. But I think Bermuda needs to do a little bit more than just return to hand and draw cards. It's, you know, it's a cool little concept. You know, it draws more cards than what Oracle Think Tank do, but Oracle Think Tank have other options as well. And I think if Bermuda had a stride that said, you know, you can't guard with grade 1s or higher, something like that, or something like, you know, like when a card returns to your hand, retire an opponent's rear guard, there's something, you know, something like this, then I think it could be a little bit more competitive, but I don't think it currently does enough. There's probably people in the comments saying, oh, what about Token Rambo? I actually like Token Rambo. I've got a Token Rambo deck. It's cool. I know that it's not going to get an awful lot of support. I'm hoping they'll get at least a second clan booster. But yeah, I like it. You know, it's a cool little concept, and I went all the way. I've got the deck, I built it. But in terms of least favourite, you know, as a personal point of view, or personal opinion, I would say Bermuda and Neonectar. I don't think there's a least favourite. You know, it's like, oh, I hate playing against this deck, because I like playing against competitive decks. You know. Let's move on to the next question. Corlicium Ogara I hope I said that right, asks, do you find it particularly appropriate for you to be hosting the first rounds of the Cardfight Vanguard UK shop tournament circuit? In terms of appropriate, when you run a business, you try and make friends, and I'm friends. I've made friends with a lot of the Bush Road guys from events and tournaments that I've competed in. I won't say their names, but you know who you are. Hi. And I've made friends with other store owners. I've made enemies as well. As with everyone. I mean, you make friends, you make enemies. But I asked to be one of the first to run a shop tournament. What I didn't realise was that it would be the same weekend that the Fires collection came out, and the strides would change from 8 to 16. So this will be the first tournament where it's 16 strides and we have G Guardians. So that'll be interesting for the first store championship. Appropriate? I wouldn't say. I don't get any special things, for how well I've done. I'm just a regular guy, a regular shop owner. I put in as much effort as everyone else does, and sometimes the squeaky wheel gets the oil. You ask for something and they say, yeah, I don't see any reason why not. And so I asked for to be given the first one, and we got the first one. Yeah. It was really nice and I appreciate it. I won't say anyone's names, but you know who you are, and thank you. Damir Vaj is Vadlja, and I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm going to say Vadla? Vadla. I'm going to say Vadla. Damir Vadla asks, I find the psychological part of competitive gaming very important. I'm curious, how do you mentally prepare for a competitive event? What's your favourite card game? What was your favourite format? And do you play Cardfight area? How do I mentally prepare for a competitive event? I listen to music. Each event has a different music that I've listened to, whatever was around at the time. For the European Championships was the WE pay-per-view song Night of Gold, which was from Night of Champions. For the World Championship, I listened to I can't remember the name of the song, but it's the main thing is Can You Bring to Fall the Giants, and it was for a World Championship of League of Legends 2015, I believe. And yes, a lot of music helps with focusing, on what it is you're trying to do. I like to mentally think about different situations. I think about how I would be against, in a losing situation, in a losing format. How would you come back from that? Because I think that's more important to know than how to beat someone when you're already winning. So I like to think, okay, so if I was in this situation, what would I do? How would I get around it? If the opponent had, an infinite card hand, what would be the best moves? What would be the best situations to do to, increase my chances and things, And it changes from format to format because the format changes and new clans come out, new clans get support, and you have to think a lot about that. What is my favourite card game? Currently, I would say Vanguard. Sometimes it switches to Buddy Fight. It used to be Huntic. Huntic was my favourite game for a long, long time, and the first game I got into was Yu-Gi-Oh! And at the time, obviously, it was only one game I was playing, so Yu-Gi-Oh! Was my favourite. What was your favourite format? I think possibly the current format. I'm not a kind of guy that thinks on, oh man, this format is so much better or anything like that. I'm a guy that thinks on how good is the game currently, and that's an important aspect. So, what's your favourite format? Yeah, I think the current one we're in. I might be biased because I came second in Worlds with this one, but I do really like. I like skill-based formats. Ones where nothing's broken. It isn't the same deck that's top in every single event. The more varied decks you can get, the better the game is, I think. If you see top 8 are all the same deck, then you start thinking, oh, I've got to play that deck, otherwise I'll never top 8 something. But if you're able to play something that's not meta, and you can do well with it, you can, win with it, or, at least, do well to such a point where people will take notice, I think that's much better. You know, that's a really good format when you're able to do that. Do I play Cardfight Area? I have played Cardfight Area, but I don't play it. The thing with online games is that it works off of a, can't remember what it's called, which is really bad because I used to be a 3D animator. But basically, it's a formula that says, you know, you can't make a game random, you know, like, you know, a random shuffle, you know, and randomly draw as much as you think you can. There's always a mathematical formula behind it. Whereas when you're in person, when you're live, you can actually shuffle an opponent's deck and it will actually be randomized. So you have to simulate the randomization, and when you're not able to, you're just going off of how good you are playing with this specific formula, which is different to how you play in real life. It's really good for testing. I recommend it for people who want to test, especially if you don't have, you know, if your local isn't, you know, very easy to get to, if it's far away, then by all means play online. You know, the more you play, the better you'll become. But don't rely on it, because it's not the same as in person. And if you're playing at, you know, a massively competitive level, you know, at a European circuit level or a world circuit level, or even if, you know, you're, you know, at a stage where you can, you know, make the top 8 of a national event, you know, continuously, I would say that it doesn't help you, because you're not going off of a real life situation. You know, you're going off of an online formula, you know, where the game will say you are more likely to get this kind of card at this point. You know, I mean, all 50 cards are supposed to be random. The computer, you know, the calculation doesn't know that this is a critical trigger and that this is, you know, a grade 3 or anything, but it uses the same shuffle formula. I can't remember the word. There is a word that goes in there. Someone will be shouting it in the comments. I can hear you already, but I do not know what you're saying. But yes. So Cardfight Area is very good for other people. I don't use it myself because I much prefer to play people in person. Also, I'm quite lucky that I have a lot of strong competitors that come to my local events. So you know, some people aren't as fortunate to have that, and you know, playing online is a better thing. I would say Skype is also a really good way. The problem with Skype is that you can't shuffle the opponent's deck. You have to rely on the opponent shuffling their deck correctly. And sometimes, you know, if they don't, you know, they can have their deck, you know, kind of stacked. But if you're not playing for anything, if you're not playing for any actual prizes, then they have no reason to. So that's a better way to test against people, you know. Kai Chung asks, we have a player who is going on tilt. Tilt is a poker term. You can look it up. I don't need to describe it. You guys probably already know. We have a player who's going on tilt because, although his decks are meta and his play is pretty good, he is cursed to lose to Trial Decks and Weiss Schwarz, and comes second in every major event in every card game he plays. As a person who also came second quite a few times and suffered defeats while close to the top, how do you bounce back? I wouldn't say it's a bounce back situation. When I lost to Helene in the finals of the European Championships, I was pleased that I came second. I didn't think, I was one win away from being European champion, you know. But I think it might be, some would perceive it as to be ego, because I know that I'm already well known. I understand how it could be frustrating if you haven't had your name set yet. You know, if you keep getting to the top of something and then never actually getting it. You know, I remember that specifically when there was a national championship that I lost, and I remember, you know, that it took me, you know, a good couple of weeks of thinking, if I'd done something differently, if I'd done something like this, you know. And you know, it can really harm you if you give it too much thought. It's important to always keep moving forward and to not stand and reminisce the past, you know. How do you bounce back? I wouldn't say you have to bounce back. Yes, it can affect you. Yes, it can, you know, a loss can be hurtful, but you keep going. You know, you don't stop when you stop, that's the most harmful thing you can do. So I would say just keep going at it. You know that you're this guy in particular. He knows that he's able to come second. He knows that he is on this level. It's not that he keeps losing to the same guy or keeps losing to the same deck or anything like that. It's just that whatever it is, I don't know what the situation is, why he loses in the finals. I don't lose because of misplays or anything. I lose because the opponent is good, and I think that's an important thing to remember. That the loss isn't always your fault. It's normally because it's not because the opponent is better than you. It's just because the opponent is equally good, and the opponent has managed to, get the win. Just because they win once doesn't mean that they're necessarily the better player. And this is something I try to teach people at my local event as well. That even though there are players out there who have won, big events, huge events, multiple national events, like this, it doesn't mean that they're unbeatable. And no one's unbeatable. Everyone is, has the capability to be defeated, and everyone has the capability to defeat anyone else. There was actually a time in the latest Scottish Team League event where I lost to a new player, not because I played any particularly horrible, not because I had extremely bad luck, not because she had extremely good luck, but because she played her deck well and she didn't make any misplays that I saw, and I just was at a disadvantage to such a point where I couldn't make a comeback from it, and she got the win. She deserved it. So that was during Swiss. That wasn't during the main event. We won the event at the end, but the fact that she was able to defeat someone like me is absolute proof. She had learned to play the game, I think, a month before, and to I don't like being egotistical and saying like, oh, I'm the best player in the freaking planet or anything like that, and she was able to beat me, so she must be amazing. I like to think of myself as a regular player who's devoted rather than a sort of like god figure. Although I do like to act. That comes from the cosplay side, and I like making myself out to be what I like to call the end boss type character, where like you can be like, like, oh, I'm the most dangerous creature and everything like that, and if you can do something like that, it's kind of hilarious, But that's just me playing about. That's me having fun. Right. Kai Chung also asks, at Worlds you got to face representatives from every region. Was there any regions that stood out? There have been a lot of posts recently in this group about how English players are better than Japanese players, although there weren't that many Japanese players participating in the English tournament. There were players from the Asian region who have traditionally played the Japanese format. Do you feel they were stronger or about the same? This is difficult because obviously I don't generally play against Japanese players. While I was over in Japan, I went to a card store and I started playing people. I don't speak very much Japanese, and a lot of these Japanese players didn't speak English either. So we were just playing, and I wasn't able to speak, so I was just using like hand motions, and I beat all of them, and they were visibly annoyed. And one of the staff who worked in the shop, he came over and he started speaking English to me. He said hi. I was like, hello, and he said, how long have you been playing Vanguard? And I was like, oh wow, do you speak English? And he was like, yeah. I said, right, can you tell these guys that I'm competing in the World Championship and that I came second in Europe? And he turned around and spoke to them in Japanese, and there was a massive oh, as in like, that's why he's been beating us. I thought it was strange that an English player was able to come over and start beating the best players in the shop, So I think the Japanese players probably think that they're better, as in the same way that the English players think that they're better, simply because you don't actually know each other. You wouldn't say that you're worse than someone that you've never met, so whatever would. The Japanese players, I keep track of the Japanese meta, and they play differently from what we do. It's similar to, even in America, the UK has a much more aggressive style than what America does. So yeah, it's different areas have different ways of playing the game. If you played the same way in a UK national event as you did an American national event, you would probably find out that you did much better in one event than the other because of how everyone else is playing the game. Was there any regions that stood out? I'm going to be extremely biased here and say the UK's, because in the UK, Helene came first, Kine came second, and I came third. In the European Championships, Helene beat me in the finals, I came second, and Kine came third. So the top 3 players of the UK National Championships, also were the top 3 players for the European Championships, which I think says something about the level of play in the European Championships. Also, it's strange because I'm from Scotland, Kine is from England, and Helene is from France. So it just goes to show the diversity of the UK nationals. So in terms of region, I wouldn't say it's one particular region, but more, I like to think that the UK has a very competitive scene, which is, even in the card game animes, you can see that Aichi travels to Europe, and Kai did at the end of the season, to try and get better and improve and things. It's not because like, oh, Europe's better than Japan or America and all that. It's not. Not this, like, I'm not saying that, but it's just that Europe seems to be recognised as a difficult region, and I like that. I think that's that shows how dedicated some of the players in the UK actually are. Sawyer Smith asks, what players have you met do you feel are the strongest competition for future World Championships? For future World Champions even. Helene and Kyle are certainly up there. Helene is probably the best Kagero player on the planet. Kine has not been playing for as long as the rest of us, and he's already an amazing competitor. He played Shadow Paladin at Nationals, he played Angel Feather at European Championships, so he's able to play multiple decks. Anyone on a big name basis, like a World Championship basis, is able to play multiple decks. In terms of future World Champions, there's a couple of guys I can think of. Callum Brown is a good friend of mine. He focuses on Oracle think tanks, and he also plays Miracle, like, for fun. He plays a lot of games for fun and doesn't take it to a competitive level. And I think if he did, he would be, a competitive threat. He would be the kind of guy that could easily make the top 8 of a national event. He actually he competed in the European Championships for Weichwarts, and he came third in the European Championships, and that was without being competitive. He also plays Vanguard. He plays a small amount of Buddy Fight, but Callum Brown is, he's very intelligent, has a lot of potential, and even without using that, he's able to get to that sort of level. Two other names, Liam Haggerty and Robert Walker. Robert might be the best Kagero player in Scotland. I won't say the UK because I don't know the rest of the UK, but he's extremely good with Kagero, has been since Kagero really first came out. Liam is an extremely good competitor. He's extremely competitive. He's very dedicated to the game. He works really hard at it, and he's intelligent. He's dangerous, and he plays my sort of style of play as well, where he's able to play against me on a competitive scene. There's a lot of players who think they're good, and when you start thinking you're good, you stop caring as much. You know, you start thinking, no, I don't need to train any further. You know, I'm already a good enough player. You know, then people know that I'm a good enough player, and I just have to remind people that I'm a good player, and I don't have to actually put any effort in, because I was a good player like 3 years ago, so therefore I'm still a good player now. You know, when they haven't actually done the research or put the effort in or anything like that. You know, and I think it can be very dangerous to yourself if you think that you're good. I'm going to tell you a bit of a story before we move on to the next question. In European Championships and Nationals, I was playing 4 draw triggers, 8 critical and 4 heal in my Metalborg deck. In Worlds, I changed to 12 critical. Not because I thought, oh, I'm good enough that I don't need draw triggers or anything like that, because I was slightly scared of Worlds, and I thought, like, I wasn't looking for a cheap win, just like, oh, I can double crit. You know, what I wanted was, rather than draw into, you know, more defensive cards or draw into what I required, I was gambling that on that I could deal more damage and be more aggressive to the opponent, and the opponent would have to do more to try and guard my attacks. So that was a case of me realizing that I wasn't good enough, and that I improved, you know, that I evolved, and that improving and evolving and knowing that there's someone better than you is, you know, it really helps you improve, and that in turn improves the game as well, because once you start competing at, you know, a bigger event, that's when, you know, something like Bushrod will start paying attention to, well, this guy was playing this at Nationals, and this guy was playing this at Worlds, and this guy was playing this at European Championships, you know, and it can start, you know, affecting what cards get support, what gets released, and, you know, like, this hasn't been seen in the, you know, the tournament play for a while now, so maybe we'll start, like, you know, trying to improve on that. This deck here seems to be really popular, so maybe we'll give that like a legend deck or something, you know, that sort of thing. So yes, I think I got extremely sidetracked there. In terms of future, I mean extreme future, there is 3 kids who are extremely good and have a lot of potential that I'm trying my best to teach without taking their hand. You know, I'm trying to guide them without saying, here, you should play this deck, or you should build your deck this way, because I want them to learn by themselves, and I want them, you know, because I was never taught. You know, and I think if you are just, you know, like held by the hand and, like, you know, driven through something, that it doesn't mean as much to you as if you do it yourself. And those three players are Jamie McKenzie, Joseph Innes, and Callum Hamilton, and I think all 3 of them could easily be national champion, if not European champion, given in a few years' time. I think if there was a under 15s national champion, a national championship, they'd have had, you know, a chance of winning it, each one of them. So in terms of future world champion, I think if they continue the way that they're going, if they continue getting stronger and such, they continue being dedicated, then yes, I think they have serious potential. There are other people that have, like, you know, extreme potential. I mean, there's like 60 or 70 people that come to Curtain Cosplay. You know, I can't name all of them. I think a lot of them are extremely good. You know, I've only mentioned the ones that come, you know, off the top of my head, but those ones, I think, maybe names to look out for in the future. Once I finally give up card games, and, you know, once I finally retire, you know, whenever the hell that'll happen. I think they might be competitors that might, you know, make Scotland continue looking strong, you know. Jordan Nicole asks, what got you into playing card games? Ooh, this is a question. Right. When I was younger, when I was in school, I was bullied a lot, a hell of a lot. Beat up on a regular daily basis. Had no friends. I had one friend, actually. Her name was Catherine. I gained another friend afterwards, but I was, the absolute lowest tier of, high school. Easy to pick on. I think it started with me being, I was always kind of small, always kind of scrawny, and always kind of shy. So people pick up on that, and they see you as a target. And so I had no friends, is what I'm trying to say. And I started playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And I was in a very depressed, a very dark time of my life, and I would say that Yu-Gi-Oh! Helped. I started playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Against a good friend of mine, probably my best friend actually, called Christopher Cole. He's the longest friend that I've had, by far. We still keep in touch, on a weekly basis. When we both have time, we both have jobs, but we make time to still meet up and we watch wrestling and things. But yes, so I already had the friend Christopher Cole beforehand, and then when I went into college, I found, when I went into college, I made, I put on an act, I put on a persona, and I made myself out to be the cool guy, and within the first week, I was the guy that everyone was going to, like being like, oh, Simon, do you want to come out? Do you want to, go for a drink and all this kind of stuff, when people were having problems with each other, they would be like, oh, this guy is like, giving me problems and things, they come to me, So this was a new experience for me, but I was acting and I was pretending, oh yeah, I've done all this before, like I'll have a word with him, I'll talk to this guy for you, I'll sort this out, stuff like this, and there were two guys in the class. I won't tell you their names, but you know who you are. And they were kind of nerdy, kind of geeky, the way I used to be. And they knew that I was like the coolest guy in the class. And I overheard one of them say something about a card game, And I went over and went, "Hey, what were you guys talking about?" And the first one, he was like, "Oh, we were talking," and the other one punched him in the arm. He was like, "Shut up! Like, you don't want to make out that we're freaking nerds, like in front of like the cool guy." And I was like, "Were you guys talking about a card game?" And you're like, "No." Like, "Of course not. We're in college. We're cool." And I was like, "You guys play Yu-Gi-Oh?" And you're like, "Why?" And I says, "Because I've got a Blue Eyes deck." And they were like, "Oh my god, not only is the coolest guy here, but he freaking plays Yu-Gi-Oh!" And we started like, playing against each other, like for fun. And I didn't even know about the first tournament that happened in Scotland. If I'd known about it, I'd have competed in it. But we went to the second, and it was just the four of us, me, Cole, these other two guys, so there was only like four people, four friends. And we started like going to this meetup group for like card games, and I started making more friends, and I deliberately made myself the best player. I went out of my way. I scrounged money from everywhere that I could to try and buy the best deck. I spent probably days, like literal hours going into days, researching into Yu-Gi-Oh, trying to make my deck the best that it possibly could be, looking at the ban list that had just came out and saying, like, why was Chaos Emperor Dragon banned, why is Blackluster Soldier at 1, this sort of thing, and like trying to build a deck around that rather than building a deck for fun. And I tried to take it to a competitive level because I now had friends, and I had friends that I wanted to fight for, because I didn't want us to seem weak, even though this was the first time that we were, this was our first outing. And like I said, I came 10th. There was, other like Yu-Gi-Oh groups, like other players and things like that, and they'd obviously been a bit more experienced than what we were. But that's how I started getting into card games, yes. So like the first tournament, I think, was, I'm not actually sure when the first tournament was in Scotland. We used to play for fun. Definitely I've been playing since like 2002, but I think the first tournament itself was when I was in college, and I started Yu-Gi-Oh when I was in high school. I started Yu-Gi-Oh because it was on in the morning, and I used to watch it before going to school. And the way that I actually first got into Yu-Gi-Oh was I was in a little shop, and they had a Blue Eyes White Dragon figure there, and I'd just seen it in the episode, you know, that morning, and I was sitting there and I was looking at it, and I took it off the shelf, and I was like, you know, thinking about buying it. And my dad was with me at the time, which shows, you know, how young I was, you know, maybe second or third year of high school. And he said, "Don't you dare! If you get that, then you'll start making a collection of it, and you've already like started collecting enough stuff." And I says, "Don't worry, Dad. This will be the only Yu-Gi-Oh thing that I ever get," which to this day has been the biggest lie I have ever told in my entire life. Because I ended up making a card game shop based on, at the time, Yu-Gi-Oh. So, yes, that was a hell of a lie, and I should probably apologise to my father at some point, eventually. And our last question is from Ross Hamilton. Things you would like to see in the future of card games. What would I like to see in the future? Are we talking immediate future? Are we talking like years in the future? Because like I would love a virtual reality style game, you know, like the PlayStation 4 virtual console is coming out soon, you know. Bush Road, if you want to get in on that, you know, we would not mind seeing a virtual reality version of, you know, Buddy Fight and such. I don't know how it'd work, but it'd be cool. But that's obviously like way in the future. I'm talking like 10 years into the future, you know. By then I'll be an old man with a big long grey beard or such, or maybe I won't have changed at all. Apparently I've not changed how I look in at least 15 years, maybe 10 years. Maybe not 15. 15 maybe a bit too much. But yeah, there's photos of me from like, you know, my first tournaments and things, you know, and I look almost identical to how I look now. So yeah, I think I've got some kind of vampire gene or something. The future of card games, I think Bush Road are going the right road. You know, bringing back the Store Championship certainly helps. The Bush Road tried the, what was it called? They tried the draft format. It didn't really seem to pan out all that well, because they've stopped now. It only lasted for like one month, I think. But it was cool. I like the Bush Road are trying different ideas. Bush Road have clan format, extreme format, and the other format, which the name I've forgotten. GE format, that's it. So having multiple formats gives people more ideas. Also, you know, they created relay events in the TV series, tag events, this sort of thing. You know, if you're local, like is willing to listen to you, you can ask them for, you know, special events and, you know, special tournaments and things. It's certainly keeping the game fresh and new is something that really helps. That's kind of what I'd like to see in the future of card games, you know. I've always thought that there should always only be one national championship, you know. You know, like Springfest is, you know, cool, you know, having a team league event. Also, I think Bush Road should start naming things national events rather than regional events, because if you've got one Springfest in the UK, it's not technically a regional, you know, or unless you count, you know, the UK as a region, but you know, like Yu-Gi-Oh calls them national champions, and you'd rather be a national champion than a regional champion. You know, it just sounds better, even if it's not entirely correct. You know, same with, you know, like, I mean, they've got European Championship, and I think they call European Championship a world qualifier as well. I think just things like that, you know, to give people more of a name. And we're on the 59-minute mark here, according to my computer, so I'm going to try and wrap this up by the hour. That was all of our questions. I've managed to get through all of them, which I'm surprised at. I didn't think I would. But thanks for all of your questions, and we'll do a second Q and answer, like, you know, at some point in the future eventually, don't know when. Just if anyone has any questions for me, I'm very approachable. Like, just feel free to add me on Facebook, start messaging me, just like, hey Simon, I want advice on this deck. I'm happy to talk to you. Sometimes I'm busy because I do, you know, run a shop or run a business, but you know, I won't ignore you. I don't purposely ignore people, and, you know, like, you can ask me things, you know. I like to think that I'm very open and very approachable, and I would like to save people from like especially the dark way that I used to be when I was back in high school. So thanks for all your time, and to steal a quote from Markiplier, I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.